We have all heard about the Tudors in England, the Valois and Bourbons in France, the Braganzas in Portugal. Each dynasty has a long and, in general, understandable history, but the Windsor family appeared out of nowhere. So why were people with this name on the English throne? It turns out that everything is very simple. A little over 100 years ago, until July 17, 1917, Windsors were called completely differently. The ruling dynasty in Britain was listed in all documents as sex. Coburg. Gotha. This German name belonged to Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria, and during her reign, it did not surprise or outrage anyone. But at the beginning of the 20th century, the situation was fundamentally different. The First World War, in which England and Germany were on opposite sides of the front, bled Europe so badly that King George V considered it unethical to be called by a German name. Citizens supported this point of view, and the starting point was the bombing of London in March 1917 by Gotha G. IV heavy aircraft. In addition to changing the name of the dynasty, the king renounced all personal and family German titles. The monarch took the war with Germany extremely seriously. He wore exclusively khaki clothes, introduced a Spartan regime in the royal court, worked tirelessly with the military, and visited hospitals with wounded soldiers. Don't be surprised if George V reminds you of the last Russian Tsar, Nicholas I. They were cousins on their mother's side. Another cousin of the monarch is Wilhelm I, the last emperor of Germany. The Kaiser abdicated the throne in 1918, when the November Revolution began in Berlin and other German cities, and subsequently fled to the Netherlands. Nicholas I, who also left the throne during the February Revolution, could have received political asylum in Great Britain, but at the decisive moment, George V opposed this. In his opinion, the arrival of the disgraced emperor would have a negative impact on the state of affairs in the country. The king did not want a repetition of the events of the Russian Revolution in Great Britain. According to recently declassified documents, British intelligence still planned to rescue the Tsar from Bolshevik captivity in the spring of 1918. But this plan was never destined to come true. George V finally secured his status as a people's monarch in 1932, when he made his first Christmas radio address in Great Britain, the text of which was written by Rudyard Kipling. The king initially did not like the idea, but changed his mind when he was convinced that this is what the people want. I really liked the new product and became a tradition. 3 years later, during the celebration of the 25th anniversary of his accession to the throne, George V admitted that he did not expect such popular love. I can't understand it. After all, I'm just a pretty ordinary guy. At the moment, the Windsor dynasty has 5 monarchs. The first of these was George V. He ruled the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland for 26 years. After his death, the throne was taken for 10 months by his son Edward VIII, who ruled Britain for only 10 months. From 1936 to 1952, the King of Britain was George VI. After his death, his daughter Elizabeth II took the throne, after which the throne passed to her son Charles III. The history of the house is just over a century. Windsor Castle. In the city of Windsor, which is located in England, there is a castle, which is the residence of British monarchs. The fortress was built almost 1,000 years ago in the Thames Valley. The architect of the castle is Hugh May. The founder of the symbol of the British monarchy was William I, the Conqueror. The estimated date of foundation of the castle is 1070. Throughout its history, the castle has repeatedly changed its design and expanded under the influence of the tastes of the ruling monarchs. But all the main buildings remained unchanged. In the center on the hill is the Round Tower. In front of it is the upper courtyard. To the left of the Round Tower are the state chambers, and to the right is the south wing. Opposite the tower are the royal apartments overlooking the East Terrace. Genealogy. The House of Windsor is considered a branch of the House of Wedding. From 1901 to 1910, the King of Britain was Edward VI, who is the only British monarch of the Saxe, Coburg and Gotha dynasty, shy King George V. As a minor heir to the throne, Albert was never prepared to become king. By nature, he was a shy person. And besides, he suffered from a stutter and had difficulty speaking in public. But he became king. He had no choice as a responsible member of the royal family. At his coronation, Albert took the name George V. He had to rein in difficult times. Shortly after his coronation, World War I began. George V became a symbol of Britain's fight against Nazi Germany. During World War II, his family showed amazing resilience by remaining in London during the air raids. One day, 2 bombs hit the lawn in front of the royal residence, but no one was injured. During the war, George and his wife visited military units and encouraged the British. After Chamberlain's resignation, George reluctantly commissioned Winston Churchill to form a government, but the king and prime minister soon became friends. In 1943, after the Battle of Stalingrad, the English King George V ordered the forging of a ceremonial sword with precious metals, which Great Britain presented to the people of Stalingrad. George was married to Elizabeth Bowes Lyon, the daughter of a British aristocrat. They had 2 children, Elizabeth and Margaret. They were born during the reign of George V and did not know that their father would become king, and the eldest daughter would be the direct heir to the throne. In 1947, Elizabeth married Prince Philip Mountbatten, although her father considered this match unsuitable. George V died quite early, at the age of 56. Stress from the war and a long-time habit of smoking undermined his health. In 1952, his eldest daughter Elizabeth became queen. Elizabeth I holds the record for longest reign. Elizabeth became the first queen to be born under the family name Windsor. She was only 25 years old when she ascended the throne. She became a symbol of young post-war England. Her coronation was televised for the first time, increasing Elizabeth's popularity. Elizabeth I has reigned for 68 years. Among all British monarchs, she holds the record for both age and length of reign. During her reign, the UK has seen dozens of prime ministers. The British Empire collapsed and became the Commonwealth of Nations. The UK entered and then left the European Union. The country has experienced the Cold War, conflicts in Ireland, several financial crises, a referendum on Scottish independence, and other crises. Elizabeth remained a popular queen and maintained the prestige of the monarchy. From the point of view of tradition, the Windsor dynasty ends with Elizabeth I, since the male line was interrupted. Her children should belong to the new dynasty that Prince Philip started. But back in 1952, Elizabeth issued a decree in which she expressed her desire to preserve the name of the House of Windsor for her descendants. The direct heirs to the throne, her son Prince Charles, her grandson Prince William, and her great-grandson Prince George, should also belong to this dynasty.